Regulation should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that. But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better person. Making sure that everything bad never happens again, which you can never fully do. It just makes everyone else's life a drag. The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat, which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
Bill Maher just unleashed his fiery 2 cents on the media circus, and the fallout was pure fireworks. Maher, a dyed-in-the-wool leftist, turned his sharp tongue against the woke mob, scorching them for their cowardly refusal to step up and actually face real debates with centrists and conservatives. This wasn't a soft critique, it was brutal. Every punch landed with precision and force. Trust me, this wasn't casual commentary. It was demolition live on stage. So without wasting another moment, let's dive right into the storm Maher just ignited.
You know, the right-wingers say what you want about them, but they talk to you. They're not into this leftist think that the left really has much more of a, I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable, I can't break bread with you.
Yeah.
That attitude, and like all the right-wingers, they don't have that attitude. No, again, I didn't vote for them.
Bill Maher just delivered one of his most brutally honest takes yet, and from the way it sounded, he's edging closer to the political center. For years, Maher stood tall as a trusted voice on the left, but even he can't ignore what's happening anymore. He points out that the modern left has completely abandoned real debate. Instead of engaging, they retreat into safe bubbles and echo chambers, cutting themselves off from reality while pretending all is well. Maher's frustration is undeniable. How can progress ever happen when one side refuses to even acknowledge opposing views? It's a wake-up call the left desperately needs, yet stubbornly continues to ignore.
He sat here, he's a human being, he's not a monster.
And a husband and a father.
Yes, and I liked him. I liked them all. They're all nice people when you meet them in person, and they're not as crazy as they would, nobody's as crazy as they make them out to be.
And that right there is Maher's biggest gripe with today's left. The instant demonization of anyone daring to disagree. Question their policies and suddenly you're branded a monster. Challenge their narrative and you're instantly painted as a dictator. Push back even slightly and congratulations, you're now a fascist. This knee-jerk labeling doesn't just silence discussion, it poisons it completely. Instead of allowing space for real and meaningful debate, the left builds cartoonish caricatures of their opponents, making it easier to vilify than to engage. The result is a culture where conservatives become open targets for wild attacks from those who simply can't handle honest dialogue. Only empty insults and hollow outrage.
Pressing enough. Having just had a birthday and being 66, please don't ask me to start doing grown-up things like run for president. A few weeks ago, Fox News' Dana Perino, a former Bush press secretary, suggested that the Democrats should recruit me to run for president, which is kind of special because it means that in the space of 20 years, Bush press secretaries have gone from telling me I need to watch what I say.
They need to watch what they say, watch what they do, and this is not a time for remarks like that. There never is.
They've gone from that to wondering if I should run for president.
It'll be interesting to see if Bill Maher is recruited to run for the presidency.
Bill Maher may never come right out and say it, but a huge portion of his views already overlap with conservative thinking. Sure, he still carries the label of a liberal, but once you cut through the noise, his criticism of cancel culture, woke extremism, and the suffocating intolerance of the left echoes far more with conservatives than progressives. That's why commentators and journalists are now openly speculating what a Maher political run could look like, especially if it came under the Republican banner. Just picture the spectacle. a lifelong liberal suddenly wielded as a political weapon by the very side he once fought against. The irony is staggering, and the possibility has people buzzing with shock and fascination.
I have many flaws, but you can't accuse me of maturing. Let's get this straight. It's not me who's changed. It's the left, who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days.
The whole purpose of life is to grow, mature, and evolve into wiser human beings. Every one of us has believed things in the past that, with time and experience, no longer fit reality. And that's perfectly natural. Real growth means adapting, questioning ourselves, and grounding our views in common sense. But here's the issue. Today's left seems completely stuck. Instead of evolving, they cling to rigid, outdated, and often anti-common sense ideas that no longer hold weight. Even worse, they refuse to engage with anyone outside their bubble or admit even the smallest point. While the rest of society learns, adapts, and grows more grounded, they stay frozen in denial, trapped in the past and terrified of change.
Which shows just how much liberals have their head up their ass, because if they really thought about it, they would have made me a hero on their media. But that can't happen in this ridiculous new era of mind-numbing partisanship, where if I keep it real about the nonsense in the Democratic Party, it makes me an instant hero to Republicans. The same thing happened in reverse to Darth Vader's daughter, Liz Cheney, who is now a hero to liberals simply because she recognizes Biden did not steal the last election. What a sad commentary.
It's almost laughable how allergic liberals are to criticism. The moment you dare to point out their flaws, they don't stop to reflect. Instead, they throw a tantrum and shut you down as if you've committed a crime. Just look at Bill Maher. For decades, he was their loudest cheerleader, proudly waving the progressive flag. But the second he began poking holes in their sacred woke beliefs, suddenly he wasn't a hero anymore. He became enemy number one. That's the left's playbook. Worship you when you obey, crucify you when you question. So much for tolerance and open-mindedness. It all disappears the moment you stop chanting their script.
Simply acknowledging reality is now seen as a profile in courage. People sometimes say to me, you didn't used to make fun of the left as much. Yeah, because they didn't give me so much to work with. The oath of office I took was to comedy. And if you do goofy shit, wherever you are on the spectrum, I'm going to make fun of you because that's where the gold is. And the fact that they are laughing at it should tell you something. It rings true.
The left loves to boast about being the so-called party of sanity. But let's be honest, those days are long gone. At this point, even chaos looks more refreshing than the circus they're running. Just take a look. Shouting matches disguised as debates, endless purity tests, and a cancel culture so vicious it devours its own faster than a pack of piranhas. And here's the kicker. A few brave leftists are finally whispering what the rest of us already know. The movement has gone completely toxic. Even Gavin Newsom, the golden boy of California progressivism, has admitted the obvious. The left needs a serious scrub, a total detox, maybe even an exorcism. When your own poster child is begging for sanitizing wipes, you know the rot has spread too far. Yet even while drowning in their own mess, they still lecture the rest of us on morality, pretending to be the enlightened ones.
When normal people read that San Francisco has basically legalized shoplifting, they think Democrats have gone nuts. They think, that Ted Cruz guy seems like a real stiff. But at least he believes in the concept of shopping with money.
Democrats seem to have a bizarre talent. If something is destructive, abnormal, or downright disturbing, they'll find a way to legalize it, normalize it, and then parade it around as progress. Take shoplifting, for example. In city after city, they've practically turned theft into a free-for-all. Penalties are so watered down that criminals stroll out of stores with bags of goods, while hardworking business owners are left helpless and furious. And then there's homelessness. Instead of fixing the crisis, Democrats glorify it, transforming sidewalks into sprawling tent cities and calling it compassion. But those tents come with filthy streets, littered with trash, needles, and human waste, all under the banner of tolerance. Ordinary Americans are expected to smile and pretend this chaos is noble, when in reality it's the collapse of common sense. Democrats don't solve problems. They rebrand disasters as justice and dare you to disagree.
It's not my fault that the party of FDR and JFK is turning into the party of LOL and WTF. Members of Congress tweeting things like cancel rent, cancel mortgage, and no more policing or incarceration, declaring that capitalism is slavery, canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss, teaching children they're oppressors and math is racist, making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral, and now an emoji for pregnant men. Real. I'm not making it up.
Democrats have turned themselves into every comedian's dream punchline. And honestly, they've earned it. Their policies are so ridiculous you'd think they were writing late-night jokes themselves. Just look at their genius idea of defunding the police. Because nothing screams progress like stripping law enforcement while crime explodes. Who needs safety, right? Let's just roll out the red carpet for chaos and watch the nation spiral into a Mad Max sequel. And then there's their precious cancel culture, the crown jewel of their absurdity. Supposedly it's about justice, but in reality, it's a glorified witch hunt that's destroyed careers, silenced voices, and turned social media into a firing squad. The damage it's caused is beyond words, yet Democrats parade it around as noble. At this point, they don't even need comedians to roast them. They're already perfecting self-parody.
California just passed a law requiring large retailers to have a non-gendered toy section. A non-gendered toy section? Isn't Ken enough? We need a law for that? You have to inject yourselves into everything, from where you can throw a frisbee to who can braid hair? This is why so many people, by the way, were triggered by COVID policies. They were already sick of rules. Regulation.
If there's one thing California has perfected, it's the art of crushing people with overregulation. This state doesn't just govern, it micromanages every single part of your life. Want to start a business? Brace yourself for endless permits, mountains of licenses, and red tape so thick it could make the IRS jealous. Want to drive a car? Better pray it meets the constantly changing emissions rules dreamed up by bureaucrats who wouldn't know a wrench from a hammer. And housing? Even putting a roof over your head is buried under zoning laws, building codes, and regulations that send costs into the stratosphere. That's why constructing anything in California takes years of paperwork and a fortune in fees, if you even get approved at all. Sacramento doesn't just poke its nose into your life. It jams its entire head in. And then they wonder why people are fleeing the state in droves.
Regulation should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that. But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better person. Making sure that everything bad never happens again, which you can never fully do. It just makes everyone else's life a drag.
Maher drops another devastating truth bomb. You don't improve society by piling rule after rule on top of people. That's not progress, it's suffocation. You can't police every word, every thought, and every action, then expect culture to thrive. The more restrictions you add, the more lifeless and predictable society becomes. Creativity doesn't blossom under constant surveillance. It shrivels up. Human expression isn't meant to be micromanaged. It's meant to breathe, to take risks, to push boundaries. Yet today's obsession with overregulation and political correctness is stripping away the very spark that makes us human. Instead of inspiring greatness, it breeds conformity and fear. Instead of bold debates and real innovation, we get dull repetition and self-censorship. Maher is absolutely right. When freedom is crushed in the name of control, you don't build a better society, You build a brittle, joyless, and boring one.
The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat, which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
At the end of the day, Bill Maher has become something the modern left simply can't tolerate. Honest. He's not afraid to call out hypocrisy, even if it means turning on his own side. That's why his words hit with such crushing force. Maher reminds us that real growth comes from questioning ourselves, evolving our beliefs, and engaging in genuine debate, not from hiding in echo chambers or slapping labels on anyone who disagrees. His critiques expose the absurdity of trying to improve society by stacking rule after rule, choking creativity, and silencing voices in the process. Whether he admits it or not, Maher now resonates more with the center, and even the right, than with the rigid left he once championed. And maybe that's the greatest irony of all. The man once hailed as a liberal icon now stands as living proof that common sense rises above political labels. And this brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button and subscribe for more fiery takedowns just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.